Well, welcome back to Taking the Pulse podcast. I'm Lynnsey Baker, and I'm joined here today by Maynard Nexon healthcare attorney Matthew Roberts. Matthew, it's always fun being with you.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, it's going to be a very important discussion, one I'm personally interested in. We have family members that have been affected by both Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. So to have this chat, we have Pawel Krysiak and Neal Goodwin with Jaya Bio. That's a preclinical stage life sciences company, and they're developing therapies for genetically defined neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and frontotemporal dementia. Pawel and Neal, thank you so much for being with us. Can y'all both start us off by sharing your backgrounds and how you came to Jaya Bio?
Sure. I have a long history in pharma development, over 25 years. I have a PhD from the University of Montana and a postdoctoral fellowship in genetics from an institute in Maine, the Jackson Laboratory. I joined Pharmacia, a major drug company in Kalamazoo, and founded a startup company called Pronai Therapeutics that went public and did an exit. And I did 2 more IPOs, and then I was able to meet Pawel in the Bay Area, and we decided to start Jaya Bio with our scientific founders at WashU, and it's been a labor of love now for over 4 years, and we share a mission to impact neurodegeneration and Alzheimer's and be impactful in this disease.
Thank you, Neal. Like Dr. Goodwin, I have over 20 years of experience in life sciences. My background is in both sciences and business. I started way back when in hospital specialty sales, and then spent time in territory management, global marketing, global strategy, general management of cluster of European countries, operations and executive roles at a few startups. And like Neal said, Jaya Biosciences is a tremendous opportunity for patient medical community. It all came about on the basis of research of lysosomal dysfunction and rare diseases. And so we're applying the learnings from rare diseases and learnings from genetic diseases to neurodegeneration. And a team at Washington University essentially discovered a new genetic link for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and other dementias. And so we formed a company around it and have been advancing its science ever since.
Well, we've heard a lot about gene therapy in the healthcare space and in the life sciences space, but some of us may not really know how it works. Can you give us a basic description of what gene therapy means and how it works and why it's relevant to Jaya Bio?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So we humans have over 20,000 different genes, and we've mapped those genes. And if there's a deficient copy of those genes or a mutation that causes a disease, we now have the technology to fix those genes and put a correct copy in. And we can administer a right dose of genes or fix a gene, much like a surgeon can fix a broken arm. We can now administer a correct gene and give a person a normal life and fix their disease. And so it's very much like Star Trek now. And the future is now as far as gene therapy.
Wow.
And that's great news for a lot of families that do have this family history of it. I know my husband's family has a very extensive history, and there's many families across the country that experience the same thing. So along with gene therapy, something else we hear about often is precision medicine. So what exactly is precision medicine, and how does that fit into this space?
Oh, that's another excellent question. And really, precision medicine is almost the foundation of Jaya Biosciences. But generally, what it means is the right therapy for the right patient at the right time and at the right dose. And how it fits into Jaya Biosciences' story is that we actually believe that effective therapies for a number of the diseases, and including Alzheimer's disease, will be based on identifying the right patient for the therapy. And so that's really what's our approach. We think that Alzheimer's, for example, may not be very homogeneous. There may be different patient subpopulations with different sort of causes. And that's really where precision medicine comes into play. Identify a subgroup of patients, for example, that have certain genetic defect, and then address this defect through gene therapy, like Neal mentioned. So that's really the concept of precision medicine.
Okay, so the therapy that Jaya Bio is working on is creates a new paradigm for the treatment of genetically defined neurodegeneration like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. But walk us through at the high level how that therapy will work using, I guess, both the concept of precision medicine and gene therapy.
So currently let's take, for example, Alzheimer's care, there's no treatment option for patients that arrests the disease and stops its progression and essentially cures the disease. And so using precision medicine, we have identified a series of mutations in genes that we can detect in certain patients if in early stages of the disease, that these patients would be candidates that we can give them a gene therapy, a treatment option to arrest their disease and essentially stop the progression of the disease, and so that they can essentially live normal lives.
Wow.
And this is earth-shattering, and this is our mission. And collectively, if there's 7 million current Alzheimer's patients in the United States, our gene targets that we're developing therapeutics against can collectively treat probably between 1 and 2 million of these patients and give them hope. And so this is quite impactful.
Yeah, and just to add to what Neal described, and as he was talking previously about the gene therapy, really, our vision is that, for example, for our lead, which is JB111, that targets PPT1 deficient Alzheimer's population, the vision would be that, a patient that comes to medical attention and is being evaluated for Alzheimer's disease would be then tested for mutations in various lysosomal enzyme genes. And if they have signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, and then they are positive, let's say for pathogenic mutations in PPT1 gene that we now know is associated with Alzheimer's disease, they're good candidates for our therapy, because our therapy is correcting that gene dysfunction. And so, this is how it all comes together.
In a best case scenario, how far off is this type of therapy in being accessible, right? Like, we just had a family member die of Parkinson's in January of this year after a 20-year battle. Like, obviously hearing something like this is revolutionary to a lot of people, as I mentioned. So is this years away? Is this more attainable than that at this time?
Well, the development, it takes time. So we have completed something called animal proof of concept, which is done. Next is essentially doing IND-enabling toxicology studies, followed by clinical studies. So Neal, you can add into this. He's very close to the technical development milestones, but I would say we're probably about maybe 2 to 3 years away from entering the clinic, and about 4 to 5 years away from having a human signal. Neal, would you like to add anything to this?
No, that's accurate.
So, Neal, I think you mentioned that this is a very different type of therapy than other therapeutic strategies for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and is different because it's focusing on the specific gene and changing that mutating gene, that modifying that gene so that the disease is no longer able to manifest itself, whereas are some of the other treatment options to sort of deal with the consequences of the disease. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so current therapies are antibody therapies against what we call a phenotype marker of the disease. We all heard about amyloid plaques, in the case of Alzheimer's.
Right.
And so basically I would say the current therapies are palliative. They're just trying to treat the symptom of the disease. And so our treatments are definitely interventional, and they're stopping the cause. They're very upstream and directed against the cause of the disease, and they're directed against precise mutations that individual patients might have. And so our first gene therapy target, as Pawel's mentioned, is a gene called PPT1. And so not all Alzheimer's patients would have that gene mutation. And so maybe only a 500,000 of the 7 million patients could be candidates.
Right.
But still, that would be quite impactful to be able to treat
Oh, for
those
sure. Yeah,
patients.
it'd be huge.
Also, what's important is the gene therapy treatment is a one and done treatment. It's one dose and you're done. And current treatments require repeat treatments. These palliative treatments, one, they don't arrest the treatment, and two, you have to keep going to get repetitively treated. Our gene therapy requires one treatment, and that's it. So it's one dose of gene therapy, your gene copies are corrected, and your onset of your disease is arrested. And so that's the future, and that's what we're driven towards.
Neal really hit the nail on the head. And one way of thinking about it is if you have a sink being filled with proteins and other aggregates, right? The current therapies target the amyloid beta with the antibodies. So it's sort of like trying to remove already accumulated plaques that we don't believe the plaques are actually cause of the disease. We think it's a resultant of the pathogenic process. So what we're trying to do at Jaya is to actually turn off the faucet, shut off the faucet from overfilling with all kinds of debris, whether it's tau tangles, amyloid, and other things that we may not even know. So we're going upstream. We're going to the cause
Right.
of the disease within that particular patient population, like Neal said.
So we first met you guys at the SC Bio Drive program, where select startup companies were chosen by SC Bio and Mass Bio to go through this program. What is it like for a startup to have access to programs like that, like SC Bio Drive and Mass Bio Drive, that helps promote and educate startups like yourselves?
Oh yeah, that's a very good question and very relevant for early stage companies. I mean, for us, it was really a huge opportunity and privilege. The SC Bio Association is very dynamic and very robust, and their collaboration with Mass Bio is just terrific, and I think very beneficial for the companies in Southeast. And in general, Mass Bio has been established for so long as a sort of a cradle, or at least one of the two biggest biotech hubs in the world, the Boston, Cambridge area being one, and then the Bay Area being the other. But for us specifically, it gave us an opportunity to interact with strategics like Eli Lilly and Sanofi. It gave us an opportunity to interact with peers like Axonis, a company that is a little bit ahead of us, a few years ahead of us. And so, and it really gave us, beyond the pointers, it gave us a lot of validation and confidence. Both Sanofi and Eli Lilly endorsed our approach. They were highly impressed with the efficacy of our therapy, and overall gave us a strong encouragement to basically shift attention now to CMC, IND enabling talks, and taking this into the clinic to bring it to patient and medical community as quickly as possible. I don't know, Neal, if you'd like to add.
Yeah, and also I'd like to add that we could become introduced to the ecosystem, in particular South Carolina, and including Maynard Nexon.
Yes,
Yes,
I
lucky
really
us.
appreciate
We
it.
got to make that connection.
I want to go back to something that you both mentioned. It's one dose, right? You were saying that one dose of gene therapy. What does a dose look like in layman's terms? Is that a medicine you're taking? Is that a surgical procedure? What is that dose?
It would be a single surgical procedure where the surgeon would administer the dose, and that's it.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
The future
exciting.
is here.
We've explored a few different routes of administration, and the most efficacious and the most safe route of administration in our animal studies was something called intracerebroventricular, ICV, and that's actually preferable for administration in a patient. These procedures are being routinely done across the nation, and there are numerous ICV administered drugs. And so what we would do ICV administered gene therapy, but it would be a once in a lifetime, relatively simple surgical procedure.
Well, one final question as we wrap things up. This is for both of you. What's the biggest challenge, and there are lots of answers to this, for a startup company in life sciences in today's world? Because it's a little different than it was, when you guys were doing different, your past jobs in terms of starting up entities and taking them public, et cetera. The world's changed a little bit. So what do you think one or two of the biggest challenges are that companies like you face?
I think it's the same as it was 20 years ago. I think it's raising money. I don't think it's changed at all, and I think it's just as hard as ever. And I don't think it's any easier or any. It's not easier or harder.
It's the same. Okay.
Well, Neal is always very stoic about these things. I think the market has been a little bit dynamic, and so maybe we are in an area where it's reset, right? So if we think 2016, 17, 18, was a bit of a biotech boom, and there was a lot of money flowing in, even from the outside of the biotech ecosystem. People wanted to come in, and so maybe it was a little easier, a little faster to raise the money. Right now, it's a little bit more challenging and takes a little longer. But fundamentally, I think for promising technologies, for good technologies with good data, good science behind it, I think they should be still getting funded. And so we certainly hope that our next stages of funding will be successful also.
We hope so too.
Fingers crossed. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, a great discussion with a lot of hope around it here today. So thank you both so much for joining us. Neal Goodwin, Pawel Krysiak with Jaya Bio. Thanks for joining me and Matthew here to have this conversation. We'll see you right back here for our next Taking the Pulse podcast.